Welcome into another Running with the Wolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, doing it solo tonight, and we're talking nothing but Timberwolves. But first, if you're new, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, or really anybody, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts later on, make sure to give us a 5-star rating and follow us as well. Now, the Timberwolves, huge win over the Oklahoma City Thunder, a game that I wasn't sure they were going to win this one, particularly when they were down in the second half. It just felt like, oh no, this is another opportunity for another team to steal one from us, another collapse in the fourth quarter. But just the opposite. The Wolves go on an 11-2 run in the closing stretch, led by Anthony Edwards, and just a huge contributions from a lot of guys in this one, particularly, and I know that we have been a little down on him in the past, but Jaden McDaniels was fantastic in this game. 6 for 11 from the field, 2 for 5 from a three-point land. He was in foul trouble like usual, but a plus 10, 14 points. Also, Rudy shutting down Chet was fantastic. Chet went 2 for 9 in this game, totaled only 4 points, and one of those was a tough turnaround spin move that you just got to turn your head and applaud if your opponent makes that shot. A great shot by Chet, but 2 for 9 for 4 points. Rudy, a huge difference maker in this one. And he also grabbed 18 rebounds and 4 offensive rebounds as well. And that's another thing Jaden did very well as well. 3 offensive rebounds for Jaden McDaniels. Cat, 21 points. Anthony Edwards, 10 for 20, 27 points on the night. But then you got to talk about Jordan McLaughlin. What a great performance out of him. He sets a different pace when he comes into the game. 10 points against the Thunder, 4 for 4 from the field, 2 for 2 from their three-point line. That is the definition of efficiency for Jordan McLaughlin. And just a great win for the Timberwolves, who are number 1 in the West once again. It was basically a battle for number 1 in the West, and the Wolves went on top of it. Some notes from this game: Ant becomes the 3rd youngest player to get a total of 6,000 points in his career. Just a huge accomplishment for him, and that's pretty amazing, considering that Ant did not have a great first year. We did podcasts at the beginning saying, like, what's wrong with Ant? Is Ant going to flourish into something? He came on the second half of his rookie year, but the beginning, he wasn't playing that much. He wasn't starting, but he started to really flourish towards the end. And congratulations to Ant. 6,000 points is remarkable, and here's to 6,000, 8,000, 12,000 more for Anthony Edwards. Now, he did have some comments after the game. Something astounding from this game was Anthony Edwards, or I should say the Minnesota Timberwolves, shot less free throws than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And Ant had some comments after the game. He basically said, I'll take the fine, but the refs weren't giving us anything in this one. Basically, he said they were playing 8-on-5, which I'm sure he'll get fined. But it's true. The Timberwolves have had bad whistle this year. And I think I saw a stat, this isn't necessarily about the Wolves, that 294. The Lakers have shot 294 more free throws than anyone else in the entire league. And I'm sure Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is up with those numbers as well. Ant does not get any calls. In fact, there was that one where he went for the dunk. Fortunately, he made the dunk, but it's clear that he got grabbed on the arm. It's as clear as day. And of course, the ref does not call it, which is disappointing, but hopefully he starts getting calls. And I wonder if one of the reasons the Wolves don't get called and are ref so bad, I wonder if it has to do with some of the complaining. It seems like Ant does complain. He's right a lot, but he does have a tendency to complain a lot. And obviously so does Cat as well. And I think a lot of it might be Cat's reputation pouring off poorly on the Wolves in general. Although I will say Cat has been better so far this season, complaining for the refs. And let's see, Jared Good here. SGA is fourth in the NBA in the past 30 days. He does get to the line a lot, and it's astonishing. He's a good player, don't get me wrong. He is a great player. There's definitely a lot to the hype for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And man, what a great trade that the Thunder made, getting rid of Paul George, who they were probably going to get rid of anyway. Getting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in that trade was a fantastic trade by the Thunder organization, but the Wolves came out on top last night. And let's move forward here by talking about potential free agent targets for the Timberwolves. There has been some flurries online that the Wolves may be targeting Bogdan Bogdanovic, which I would love. Now, you would have to give up a good king's ransom to get him, because I don't think that the Hawks are just going to give him away. His contract, he signed a 4-year, $68 million contract. Let's see what year he signed that. It looks like this is the first year of his contract. So that is the good news if you were going to go after someone like Bogdan Bogdanovic, who is 31 years old right now. This is the first year of his contract. And the way the salary works, it goes down. He's making 18.7 this year, 17.26 next year, and the year after that, 16.02. And then, which is the great news, he has a club option, so the Wolves can decide whether or not to keep him or not for the next season. He'll be 34 at that point. Can't imagine he'll have much left at the tank. But hey, Mike Conley still has stuff in the tank for the Wolves right now. Maybe Bogdan will have some in a couple seasons. Hopefully we'll be raising 2 banners, maybe 3 banners by that time, but we'll have to see. Could it be a viable option this year? Bogdan Bogdanovic, 17.1 points per game. Doesn't do much on the rebounding or assists, but what you get him for is the 3-point shooting. He's shooting a little lower than his career average, 38%. He's shooting 36% on the year so far, but he's been good lately. He went 4 for 9 against the Mavericks, 4 for 8 against the Raptors, and 24 points in both of those games. And tonight he's 2 for 6. But he is definitely not afraid to let the threes fly. And it's clear that the Wolves do want to get better at the 3-point line. Although I will say, I looked it up, the Wolves are second in the league in shooting a 3-point, or in 3-point shooting, I should say, at 39.1%. I believe only the Clippers shoot a better clip, but they are 17th in the league in 3-point shooting average, averaging 31.5 threes attempted per game, which is way below the Celtics, who are way up there. I believe they're in the high or to mid 40s on that one, but definitely want to improve the 3-point shooting. That's the way the NBA is going. But the question is, would they give up slow-mo in the deal? Is the locker room camaraderie and the defense and zone play that he plays, is it worth giving up a guy like slow-mo for maybe someone who's more talented, maybe someone who can make more 3-pointers? Because as you know, when they pass it to slow-mo in the corner, he does not know what to do. He'll look like he's going up for a shot and then bring it down and then usually dribble and pass it to someone else. A nice perimeter scorer who can catch and shoot off of Ant's dishes or Conley's dishes would be nice. Another guy that they're potentially looking at, Doug McDermott. Now, he is making $13 million this year. So I was listening to Doogie Wolfson earlier today, and he was saying that potentially Doug McDermott could be a buyout candidate, potentially a buyout candidate. So the Wolves wouldn't have to trade too much for him. He's actually not playing too much for the Spurs. I think he's only averaging about 15 minutes a game, but hey, for the right price, he could be the right guy. Of course, as we know, he was a bucket in college at Creighton. He's continued to shoot well in the NBA and could be exactly what the Wolves need if in a buyout situation, potentially. I mean, the last 3 games, he played 10 minutes against the Wizards, scored 6 points, 2 for 4 from 3. Against the Timberwolves, he hit 3 threes in 17 minutes, and the Trailblazers didn't score in 14 minutes. So he's definitely a guy who's not going to bring much defense, but he will bring his shot, which he's had for years. And probably what's kept him in the NBA, because if he didn't have a jumper, I don't know what else would keep Dougie buckets in the NBA. Another guy that the Wolves are looking at that I've heard is Monte Morris. That is going around right now. Of course, he is on the Detroit Pistons, so not doing much for the Pistons right now. He's averaging 5.7 points per game, but he is shooting 40% from behind the 3-point line. Could be a cheap option. I think the goal of the trade deadline, and I think that he would agree with this statement, is to get Shake Milton on a different team. We can put our cards on the table. It didn't work. The Shake Milton experience didn't work, but if it and maybe a second-round pick and maybe a guy like a Leonard Miller, who I believe the Wolves like a lot, or a Wendell Moore Jr., maybe, if that can net us someone who is valuable for the championship, I guess I'm saying it, championship run, or I'll say this, playoff run, then that would be a net win. Because you can admit, you made a bad signing, and it's not like he's making that much money anyway. I think he's making $4 million this year, but Shake Milton definitely not part of the Wolves' long-term plans, I do believe. And the question is, would they give up Slow-Mo? I don't know if they would. I think he's too much of a glue guy in the locker room. Now, my thoughts, would I give up Slow-Mo? I 100% would. Wouldn't think twice about it. Get out the door. Particularly his contract is up at the end of the year. So I don't know. I think I would give up Slow-Mo for a good 3-point shooter, but I'm not Tim Conley. We'll have to see what he does. So this is the Running with the Wolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to. And as always, go Wolves.